Meeting is called to order, the Historic District Commission for July 2025. I'm Charlotte Hitchcock, the Vice Chair, will be presiding tonight. And we are expecting one member to be on Zoom, so we will need to do all our procedures by roll call. So Carolyn, would you like to start?
Carolyn Singer.
Charlotte Hitchcock, Vice Chair.
Michael Barron, Town Planner. Larry Wood, Mike Hoffman, Aaron Wolfson-Sleppy, and Jennifer Becker cannot join us tonight.
Sally Tobias, Planning Board.
Tom Janos, alternate.
All right, and hopefully we will see Eric soon. So we do have a quorum, and Tom, you will be seated as a voting member tonight. So the agenda. How does the agenda look to everyone? Would somebody like to move to accept it? If not,
I will move.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so any comments, So all in favor? Let's do again the roll
Is
call.
there anybody?
He's not there, so.
Eric, yes.
Carolyn Singer.
So you accept it?
Yep.
Okay, Charlotte Hitchcock, I accept it.
Sally Tobias, aye.
Tom Janos, I accept.
All right. So first item is the minutes from the last two meetings, which we had sent to us this time, and I read through them. They looked okay to me. Anyone have any corrections? If not, all right, so how about the meeting minutes for May 8th? Someone like to move, do we have to move and second each one of these?
Oh, you could do them together.
Oh, together? All right, how about both of these together? Motion to accept?
I motion to accept both May and June.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, so let's vote on that. So Carolyn?
Carolyn Singer, yes.
Charlotte Hitchcock, yes?
Sally Tobias, yes.
Tom Janos, yes.
Okay. So, so now do I need to talk to downstairs to, if they have any?
Yeah, if there's anyone else on Zoom.
Right, okay.
Eric is not here yet.
Okay, and no one else is on Zoom?
Nope.
It'll show, once somebody's
Okay.
on Zoom, you'll see a little thing.
So public comments are closed. And how about the staff report?
Well, just thank you to all of you. I know sometimes it's thank you to all of you for coming out tonight so that we can have our meeting in the quorum. We talked earlier about a stone wall behind Three Chimneys that seemed to be damaged by some stormwater around it. And I spoke with Karen Meyer at Three Chimneys, and I'm going to meet her there next week. And we're going to take a look at it and see what needs to be done. And that's all I have.
All right, and is this because it's in this historic district? Is it because it's adjacent to the cemetery that might be?
Oh, all of the above. Yeah, I mean, it's just because it's a older stone wall next to the cemetery, next to Three Chimneys. Somebody pointed that out at an earlier meeting.
Right.
They noticed it was damaged, being undermined, I think, by the
If I may
water.
say something, I was over there with Janet Mackey. We did a walk around the cemetery to see what's going on, and it is pretty excessive what's happening.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's pretty what?
Pretty
Excessive.
excessive of the damage that's going on right there now. It's what they have is, first off, their gutter is plugged, and it's not just you got things growing out of it, small trees, everything. It's in the back of the building, so nobody sees it. So what it's caused is the water is going over. It's coming between the wall that would be there for the cemetery. And as time goes on, this isn't something that just happened last year. It's been years. So every time we have a freeze or more water, it's just pushing. And it's at the point right now, we both said that maybe another 2 or 3 years from now, that whole wall's going to come down. That's how severe it is right now. So it's going to be a case of, yes, they're going to have to do something with that gutter, but also when we start doing the work at the cemetery, that's another thing that's going to have to be addressed, that wall. It's so severe right now.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
And do we know who actually owns the wall?
I don't know. I'll look at the lots and see if I can tell by that, but she seemed receptive to trying to do something.
Okay.
If for no other reason, if they don't do something, they're going to be having structural problems with that building. You can tell it's got a backup problem up there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So I mean, if no other
well,
reason.
that may
gutters.
be extra incentive.
Yeah. If it was my place, I'd definitely jump on it.
Yeah, if you've got gutters, you've got to keep the gutters.
All right. So I would just like to comment that in staff reporting, now that we know about all these zoning changes, I feel like that those should have been reported out either by you or by maybe from the planning board, some more proactive movement to include us because of the Church Hill zone being subject to a zoning change.
Well,
And so,
one thing that I noticed coming in here for the first time was that you don't have and actually the first meeting I came prepared to do a report, but you don't have reports from other committees on your agenda.
So we should have that as a
And
standard.
I think you should,
Yes.
yeah, because it does prompt, because I'm
Right.
like, oh, they don't do that, so I'm like, no one said anything, no one ever asked for anything.
yeah,
And I don't know, I would have assumed if the previous rep had, that you would have said, so where's your report, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I
right.
was just kind of going with the flow, because I would have been, and I would have thrown the housing task force stuff in with it, just because
right.
I would have had that, but, yeah, I mean, I don't, there's certainly, I don't think there was any attempt to keep it from you, because that would be, I mean, it's all
Right,
out there.
there's just a matter of-
Yeah.
a matter of
But
thinking of it
I think we
as
build
a-
it in, I think it should be built into the
Right,
agenda.
so what do we have to do?
Oh, we can just add that. Do you
to
want
our-
to put it before or after staff report?
After staff.
After staff report? Okay, so
So
we'll have.
report from
Committee
members of other committees.
Because you have the town council, and then and you know, I mean, Eric too, he
Right.
didn't make any report, and we, in the planning board and the housing task force brought those amendments to the council. It was a council-initiated thing, they accepted them, so I think it's just writing it in there kind of creates.
Yeah, put it in the agenda, then we'll
Yeah.
know to sort of check in with
Yeah, you need
everybody.
to, yeah, it needs to be built in, so that
Yeah,
it's,
a good point. All
May I
right.
say something?
Yes,
There's always other business, and not to discuss zoning changes with the commission that's actually charged with protecting the historic district, and not to have any type of discussion with us is really outrageous. So I'm just going on the record with that. The fact that we weren't consulted, just unacceptable.
Well, we will be mindful of that. It's, well, we will be mindful of that going forward. Yeah.
yes, I'm concerned that with opening up to additional development in a zone that's as small as Church Hill, it's a few parcels, that there'll be some pressure on the requirement that no one should demolish their building. And
Yeah.
because they've now the incentive to build something bigger. And I feel that there's going to be some threat to the integrity of the historic district if, by
Yeah.
pressure of
Well,
development.
we have already, I think when we get to that point, you'll realize that the change really just, what multi-unit is already allowed in the sense of over 55 multi-unit is already allowed by right. And so we didn't really see a difference between over 55 and normal adults. And all the only really, probably, I don't know the percentage of, I would say most of the buildings in Church Hill, and this is just the thoughts that we had, are multi-unit that are non-compliant, and they are filled with college students. In our conversations with property owners, one of the property owners that owns property in the Churchill, he says the student population rental market is drastically declining. And in speaking to some of the other property owners in the town, they say the same thing. And they're starting to now look, I was talking to another property owner, another one that owns property on the Churchill, who says he was starting to look at what other things that they could build otherwise. And then he realized, he says, we looked at, well, we could start building, we could build a over 55 facility. We could do that by right. And they were starting to think on those lines. So I'm like, well, over 55, fine, you can do that by right, but it doesn't create housing for anybody. It just creates housing for over 55. And their intent was, to make up for some of the losses that they're feeling in the student market, in the change of direction and requirements on at the university. So that, it seems like for us, it was the same thing. It wasn't any changes. The heights remain the same. The oversight, of course, remains the same. Even the ownership, I know Mike Hoppin expressed a concern that large developments could be, large, investment companies could come in and own these properties. Well, there's nothing right now, there was nothing before stopping any of those property owners from selling to a large investment property as well, and then putting in over 55 housing. And maybe the town would have been happy with over 55 housing, but it doesn't eliminate the threat of tear down and build up of something else. The situation is consistent with what we had before and then what we had, what the council approved to add on.
But am I right, Michael, that our zoning overlay does not allow people to demolish the historic
Yeah.
buildings?
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
You have
And I
very
suppose
strong
that
protection there.
if they were to
Yeah.
renovate them,
It would have to be.
to make nicer apartments
Yeah.
for the new market, that could be a plus
It
all
could, it
around.
could change Churchill, and that was our hope, because they can't take it down, but they can do a lot to make it better.
Right.
And create, because, this one guy, one property owner was saying, he was saying, these could be some really nice apartments that we could make, or even for sale condominiums, and he was looking in that, we all know prices are high, but, looking in, that would be a premium place to live, if you had a decent place, if you had a nice apartment. And the eventual changeover, I would hope that would be the first place that they would change over from student rentals to non-student rentals, or a more broad-based situation. So, and that's to say, it maintained the status quo. Because there was no more threat added to it.
Yeah.
And whether we should have discussed it with, in retrospect now, yeah, we probably should have, but, we didn't.
Right, but hopefully we fix that for the future.
But we
Yeah,
can
we'll be
discuss the next
mindful,
one.
yeah.
We can
Yeah.
certainly discuss the next one that's still up, or any other layers that you might think need to be added. I already have some thoughts in my head of some, the extension of the 2-bedroom only, and then researching some requirements of what we can do legally as a town, but anything that you have for a suggestion, there's certainly more layers that have to be added to all of these situations. So that's fine.
I also send out a blast email about planning board items. I send out a preliminary agenda, actual agenda in the pack, and then a recap. And I send this to all the boards. So if anyone sees anything on there that is of interest, just if you're not sure what it is, just call me or email me, and I can send you more information about it.
So perhaps, given that decisions don't have to be made, or we've got another year, perhaps the vote will be put off, that's scheduled coming up.
For the,
The height.
The height is, that one is scheduled, the public hearing is scheduled for that. But that, you know, on the 4th.
Right, and I'm just saying, given that
You
there's
don't
no
know.
hurry,
Yeah.
why push that?
Well, that's the council. I mean, that isn't in my hands at all. That's in the council owns that,
Well,
that
it's-
legislation right now. But, you know, if you have thoughts on it, I have no problem listening to them and show me. I have imagery of what, there were two sites.
Can I interrupt and say maybe
Yeah.
we should discuss
Yeah,
this?
we can do that
because
when we
Why don't we
have
do
it.
this?
Right,
Wait.
right, right. I
On
didn't mean
our
for this to-
agenda item.
Right. Right, all I meant was to try to discuss this
Well, you know
change in
how
our
it
agenda a little
starts,
bit. But
Charlotte.
yes, we have a long way to go, yeah.
But I think we
All
need to
right,
get
so
these
let's move along to item 8, 39 to 41 Main Street, the application to replace windows at these 4-unit building, is it? Okay, so would you like to come before us and describe what you're hoping to do?
Hello, my name is Jeff McMath. I'm a licensed contractor out of Massachusetts, hired by the owner, Frank Silva, the owner of the property. And they would like to spruce up the property, all right? And the house was built in 1900, has wood clapboard siding, it has wooden doors, it has asphalt shingles, but the windows, I don't think they are the original windows. I think they're a second generation window in the house. They're old, a lot of them are broken, and they're not efficient as far as energy. Now, the owners pay for all the heat in the units, and he'd like to do work to the building to try to make it more efficient with the climate and everything. So we're looking to remove 43 aluminum storm windows that aren't really serving their purpose because they're old and not working to their capacity, and also replace the wooden windows with a vinyl replacement window that's triple pane. It's the most efficient window that they sell, all right? In wooden windows, you cannot get a triple pane. Well, you could, but it'd be astronomical to put them in. But we'd like to replace the windows with the triple pane windows. And I brought a sample of the window here. It's a white vinyl window. This one happens to be 4/1, which is four lights over the
Bring it
top.
over a little closer so we can see it. Thank you.
Oh, maybe we could, why don't we, I don't think you want, maybe we could put them right here.
Put it right up.
I don't know that you want to pass.
No, we're not going to pass it around, Michael.
And the window's upside down right now.
All right, oh, yeah.
It's upside down for the,
Thank you.
so it doesn't bend the nailing fin. Right. And this window happens to be a new construction window, which has a nailing fin on it. The windows we're getting are just regular replacement windows. You go in the building, you take the stops off inside, you took the windows out, and you take this, you caulk the outside stop, you push the windows in, and you put the stops back on that holds the window. This one happens to have a full screen on it. You can get full screen or half screen, whatever you like, and you can do the mullion pattern any way you want. This house, most of the windows are 2/1. The third floor has like 6/6. So I don't know if that was an original window or which one came first, because you would think the whole house had the same pattern on the windows when it was built and everything. And we also have 4 wooden doors. They are side entries to this building, and there's a wooden deck. And the doors, we'd like to repair the doors. We were thinking about putting new doors in, but again, those are all special order and long lead time, and those are just way up there as far as cost. But we'd like to repair it, and when I say repair, there's layers and layers of paint on the doors, all right? We'd like to fix the doors by scraping down the layers, repainting the doors, and there's some molding around the glass that's loose. We'd like to reattach it, all right? And there's the old lock sets. I don't think they're original, but they're time period to older houses. We'd like to try to fix them and at least clean them up to make it look right. And they would like to paint the entire building to freshen it up. That would be the sidewall, that would be the decking, and That's basically it for what this commission is for. So that's our request.
There are also some missing spindles on the porch railings.
Oh, we'll take,
Would
yeah,
those be-
we'll take care of that. The clapboard is relatively in great shape. So if there's anything that has to be repaired before painting, they'll repaired, and if there's missing balances, and there are some handrails going down from the porch down to the walkway that they're just repairing now and stuff. And we'd like to change the handrails. Right now, it's just a 2x4 painted. We'd like to put like a little design on it.
A real one?
And- A railing, yep.
A real railing?
Yes, yes. And the brickwork in front, it looks like it's in, for the age of the house,
Saw the picture of it.
it's in good shape. But if we have to repoint any of it, we'd like to just repoint any of it just so it lasts.
All right, would anyone else like to start with some comments or questions? If not, I will, because our definition of our historic district regulations is very specific about not approving of demolishing historic features that are character-defining features of the building, which the windows would be included in that. And so I would like to discuss the alternative to removing them, which would be to restore them, because there are a number of companies active in New Hampshire that do historic window restoration. And you can put new storm windows on, because those are acceptable as a historic change because they could be theoretically removed. But the windows themselves really should be restored, and experience has shown that it is usually cost-effective to restore them, new weather stripping, replace all the caulking, all the, putty of the windows, and adding the new storm windows, which will generally make the window much more energy efficient than it is at present, and at often at a better cost-effective method of bringing it back and retaining the historic features. And so we really would like to not see removal of those historic wood windows, because even though they may be from a few different periods, they're all more than 50 years old, so they all contribute to the historic feel of the building, and it's the first building you come to in the historic district as you're driving around on Main Street. It's really quite an important visual building to keep its appearance.
I'd also say that if, this is one of the buildings that might be considering switching to condominiums at some point, or apartments for adults rather than students, I think that when you retain the historic elements of a house, that supports its value. That's something that people look for.
Yes.
Yeah, we're all for that. We're all for that. But this is a rental property with college students. And to put a vinyl window in, you go in one day and you have the job done. Doing the restoration, if we were gutting the house, doing a total restoration of the house, I would definitely say have somebody come in and fix the windows to original state and everything. But going down the street, we're number 30, 39, 41, number 37, 35, 31, 27, 25, 5, and 9 have vinyl replacement windows. Those are all houses and buildings in the historic district and stuff. So I feel that, we should be able to go along with what that is, over being stuck with having to fix the wood, which we really don't want to go and do that.
Well,
So remember when I said we want to be careful about how we do our votes, because it's going to be precedent setting, and everybody said, well, we could just make sure it's not. So just bringing that up.
right, so I think in recent years, our care has been better than it was a few years ago. And we have some very good examples further down, like just down beyond here, of some houses that have been very beautifully restored. And even if they replace the windows, they replace them with a very high quality, like a Marvin replacement that really replicates the appearance of the original windows, which you can really never get with the vinyl. And I'd also like to point out that a vinyl window has a lifespan of 20, 25 years at most. A wood window, when it's restored, can go another 100 years. So it's short-sighted to think that getting rid of those old wood windows would be in your best interest.
Did you say there are some vinyl windows already existing there, some?
No, not in that house, no.
Not in that
On the street,
Oh.
in the district. That is,
No, I guess on this house,
There are a few.
there were some old, at the beginning when you were explaining, there's some wooden ones, but there are some other ones that have been restored
no,
already or
nothing's,
replaced.
You just had storm windows over the existing.
there are storm windows
storm
out,
windows.
old storm windows out there that are aluminum and they're all pitted
Okay.
and everything, and they aren't efficient of what they were
Yeah.
as where they were new.
No.
Right.
And everything. We're just
Right.
trying to make the building more
Right.
energy efficient for
Right, and that's
both the
very
tenants and the
Yeah,
owner.
that's understandable, because the old ones, they don't open and shut anymore, so they're not going to do
Right.
their job. But new storm windows would be easy to
But
operate.
now that leaves me with a single pane wooden window in there that is not efficient at all.
But with the addition of a new storm window.
Right, that's,
And if the original wood window is properly weather stripped, it will be considerably, and the wood has a good insulating value.
yes, I understand that, but it doesn't compare to a triple pane glass new window, today's technology.
That is true.
I have a problem with this whole thing right now. And if the vote was right now, I'd have to abstain. The reason is, if this gentleman's coming before us and saying there are other houses on this historic area that are done with the, I don't know, I haven't checked it out to see for case if it is true or not, but if other homes have that type of window,
Well, it's.
They're there.
they're there.
Those are there.
Yeah, I know, but
Some
I'm
of
just
those
saying, you
buildings-
know what
Are some of those buildings new buildings?
I don't know.
Because I'm only been here for 5 years, so I'm not an old-time Durham person.
I mean, we've got to look at things, I realize, I own a house also in the Historic District, which we'll get a little talk about later, but not now. Yeah, this is something that should have been done boards before, obviously.
Right.
Michael, you've been on this long enough, you probably know more history about this than any of us right here. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable in anything that, in other words, if my neighbor has vinyl or even two down, and now I want to do the same and I can't, why not? You know what I'm?
What was the reason that you were here for allowing vinyl replacement windows in past experiences? Was it, because my concern is that if it becomes something that is cost prohibitive, that they won't do anything and they'll just leave deterioration there. And walking by this building, it needs some sprucing
Right.
up. And my concern is that if we put it down that it's cost prohibitive, they won't do anything. And I think that is a risk that we have in the
Right.
district. Because if the bench is too high, then we can't find a common ground
Well,
that
why
is
don't we get
acceptable.
some estimates?
Yeah, I mean, what's the difference in price point? And again, also the conflict of the efficiency with, the Energy Commission. I mean, everybody would probably have a
Is
different.
this building
thing.
insulated?
Must be insulated.
I couldn't tell you.
Because you might find that insulating the building with a blowing-in cellulose
And insulating the building
would do a
would
better job. Doing that and weather stripping the original windows and adding new storms would be, in balance, do more than adding a
Yes,
third.
There's a lot of factors involved.
Yeah.
And one is time. these units are rented out. He cannot have the tenants leave for a week while somebody's doing the windows in their unit. With vinyl windows or
Yeah,
any type
well-
of replacement windows, you pop them out, you pop them in, you're in there in a day and you're out. And, you know, you go in and you touch up paint, that's it. And stuff. So that's one of the things. To insulate it, would have to go from the outside, you'd have to drill through the siding, okay?
Right.
And are you gonna allow a patch on the siding in a historical district? I mean, there's a lot of holes in that house. That's a big house, and there's nooks and crannies everywhere to do it. Every house is built, depends if it's 24 inches on center or 16 inches on center.
Right.
The studs that you have to fill the cavities, that's a lot of holes.
It's a lot of fill.
That's a lot, yeah.
I know, I've been there.
And you don't want to do it from the inside because it will blow the old sheetrock right off and everything. It's probably Hosea plaster with lath and plaster there, which is, you're better off going through the outside, but that's,
Yep.
now that's a big aesthetic, you know, with the historical.
There may be a time when you're in a complete redo. Sometimes when you're
Right.
in a regut and everything like that, and you're doing it from the bones out, that's the time to blow in insulation or
That's what I
whatever.
would
Yeah.
have sold him on the wooden
Yeah.
windows. If we had all that time, the units were empty, and we had 6 months to redo the whole place, that would be the time to do the windows back to original state, the original windows. You have to
Yes,
take them
but if you
off, you
take
have
them
to
off-
strip them.
If you take them off now, then they're gone forever.
Yes,
So
I understand
I
that.
feel that it was short-sighted to give up the historic qualities, because the reason we have a historic district is because it enhances the quality of life and the value of the entire town.
I'm all for it. Me and my wife just ate across the street there, a beautiful place that they have there now. And my wife went here, she graduated in '81. She said when she was here, there was one food truck around. Now you have a whole place, it's beautiful. And I understand the historical part. But again, what this gentleman said, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 houses right next to it with vinyl windows. And if I went down the street and you said this house is down there, it's been restored, but doing a restoration of a house is different from doing replacement windows. It's-
Well,
Could we ask you to get an estimate on what it would take to repair the windows?
You could ask, but the whole thing is, I wouldn't be interested in doing that because of the time involved.
Well,
Okay.
Well, I've known people who have had their windows restored, and they live in the house while it's being done. The person comes in, takes windows out one at a time, and restores the sash and, weather strips and puts them right back up.
Here's the owner.
Yep.
I can't talk to him as far as that if he, I don't know if he wants to spend the time and money doing it like that.
Yeah, it could be challenging to do that with a rental
You're disrupting
situation.
the rental.
But-
These are
And if
college
you're
kids.
if you're the owner and it's in there, you're living in the house yourself, there's things, but
It's totally different.
Yes,
there's...
when you bought the house, you know that you bought a house in the historic district, and that there are requirements for the maintenance of a house in the historic district.
I understand
And one of
that.
them is that you do not demolish historic material unnecessarily, because it defines the quality.
You could come to this seat here so you can be on microphone.
So all those buildings are fairly new, past 3941 Main Street. The ones he listed, those were knocked down and rebuilt. Why were they not required to put in wood windows when they were built from scratch? So it's like, yeah, I could get a quote, but like this is also has, to do with money, like, so I mean, it's already been done. There's vinyl windows up and down Main Street. Like, I'm sitting here like trying to figure out how it's possible that we have to be held to this when all these other houses were allowed to do that were built from scratch. Probably, 2014, 2015?
Well, number 5 and number 9 Main Street aren't new houses, they're old houses.
Some of them, but a lot of those are the Main Street apartments are within, I think they're like 10 or less years old, so,
And that house across the street from you, which...
yeah, which is on the corner, which has vinyl as well.
across from the
Yes.
post
Oh,
office.
that's across the street.
The one next to the post office.
Across.
Yeah, it's like goes
Blue House.
juicery, then.
Blue House on the
Yeah.
corner, yes, I noticed that one had vinyl, and I don't know the history of how that was accepted.
Michael, do you know what information, what I'm looking for right now is, when was it decided that vinyl was a no, year-wise?
Well, in the time I've been here, there's probably been half a dozen window applications to the HDC. And I think there's been a mix of what's been approved. I know there were some that were replacement windows that had an exterior contour grille plus an interior grille. I don't remember whether those were vinyl or actually had a wood exterior. I'd have to check the records. But recently, there's been a few projects where the HTC did specify that the wood windows had to remain. So it's been a mix. I can research that, if that would be helpful for all the window projects that have come to the commission.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah, because we're all concerned, I'm just plain devil's advocate here. It's not the right way to do things. This is not the way you do business. I wouldn't do business this way. If it's right for one, it's right for the other. So how did the others get it? That's the question I'm asking you, because you've been here longer than me.
But what happens if the standards or the people on the HDC haven't been preservationists in the past? There's
Well,
also
I don't
that
know.
issue.
I don't know. But the thing I'm looking at here is you can't hammer on something to change something, because if it's already existing over here, you know what I'm saying? I'm not a lawyer, but I can tell you this could go in one place. It'd go to court. And I don't want to see that happening either.
Well, I don't know if why don't we research it and find
Yeah.
out what the dates are of the buildings that have them?
Exactly.
I
That's
wonder
what
if
you're going to
Eric's
have.
here, isn't he? I wonder if Eric has.
No, he's
Oh,
not
Eric
here.
is not.
He's
here?
not. He never showed up.
Too bad. It might be useful. I
There are some
can.
buildings that look to me like they were new. There's a couple of the houses that have the giant apartment behind them.
Oh,
And I don't know, so I'm not clear on what buildings were new and what buildings were existing.
yeah, I don't know,
And so
Michael, that was your
But
first
the
project.
house next door was picked up and moved back, and a new house was put in front. And they have vinyl windows.
The Grange.
The Grange has vinyl
Grange. And I
windows.
mean, I think,
The Grange lost its status as a historic on the state register because it was moved. So that should never
it was
have happened.
moved?
right.
Well, they
So
moved
we-
it forward.
Because it was
I'm sorry.
moved.
And it was actually a very good decision by the town, but the
Oh, it
state
looks
didn't
beautiful.
like it, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's an opinion.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that there are opinions here too. I mean, my concern is the concern that nothing will be done. If you do a cost run, and I would encourage you to do a cost run, even though you say you wouldn't do it, I would encourage you to do that. Because if you found it was cost prohibitive, and then your reaction could be just to do nothing, I would hope you would
It
still try to
probably
do something.
It would be double what the contract is right now.
Yeah.
And that's just a quick assessment of it. It could be more.
So I'm going to make a recommendation that Michael do some research. And because we do want to be fair, and we want to also uphold our standards. So let's do some research and find out what's going on. Let's have a conversation with the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance. I'm sure we're not the only community to have this issue. And maybe kind of figure something out for the decisions.
Are you able, can you wait a month? Unfortunately, our next meeting actually should be in 3 weeks, I believe.
Yeah,
3
it's in
weeks.
3 weeks.
First 3 weeks. And unfortunately, there's 3, 6, we have 9 members of the commission, including 2 alternates, is 7 voting members.
missing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Sometime,
vacations, whatever, only for, a number of people couldn't make it tonight. You're probably not going to get a decision tonight because we only have 4 people. If you could wait 3 weeks, we could get more information. I'll research all the windows that have been reviewed by the commission, over the last couple decades. I mean, at least the last 15 years. I wonder if it'd be useful to have a site walk, everyone meet at the property and take a look at things. And if there's adjacent properties, people could look at that as well.
That might actually be a good idea.
I think that's a very good idea.
Unfortunately, I can't participate in that. I have handicapped in my feet. I wouldn't be able to walk up the street with you at that site
But-
meeting.
But Mr. Silva could join us for that, right?
Sure.
Is that,
I mean, if that's acceptable, it could just be continued 3 weeks. Hopefully there'll be hopefully more people here. We'll get a little more input. Hopefully, the HTC can make a decision one way or the other. And I think a site walk to your property and looking at some of the adjacent ones, and I'll get some history, should be helpful, right?
and there should be more,
if you
there are
could
some
be a little
members here that
proactive and
will be there.
I provided a list. Did you hand over the list of the Preservation Alliance?
I'm pretty sure I did, that I...
List of people who do
Did I?
restoration of windows. The Preservation Alliance is a statewide organization, and they have a registry of contractors who do, and including about 4 or 5 that do windows. If you would, make an effort to get some
Yeah,
kind
that's
of an
fine.
idea of how much they would cost and how long it would take and how they would work, so that you would have a comparison, that would be helpful.
2-entry building, isn't it? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, on both sides.
Do you want to find a time for a site walk?
Must have been built that way.
Sure, just let me know what,
Are you in town or,
yeah.
so maybe, Michael, since there are other people who aren't here, maybe you can wait until
Yeah.
people are back and get a consensus of it.
Or you
Right.
might be able to get them on email to give you
Yeah,
offer
yeah.
a few days.
Yeah, if you could
Frank,
do
I
it.
think I have your email,
You have my
right?
email, you do.
So why don't I set up a site walk
Built as a duplex.
for the next
I always thought it
next week or
was.
the following week with you and the HCC.
All right, while we're here though, can we get into the painting of the building and the repair of the doors?
Oh, before I forget, the HCC is required to take action within 45 days, which would be this meeting. Can you give an extension? Can you okay an extension to the next meeting?
Which is in about 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
Sure.
Yeah, great, thank you.
It's in your best interest to give us the extension.
Have you seen historic photos of the building?
No, I haven't.
Maybe,
Well, there's one here somewhere, right in the town hall, I was told.
Yeah,
There
it's
is?
a painting right there. In the other room, I'm sorry, in the tax and,
Of this building?
yeah. It's the tax collector's office is,
Oh,
so I'm gonna look and see if we can get some historic
Yes,
photographs for
okay.
you.
that actually would be nice. Do you think white is the original color? Do you think white was,
yeah, I went to school
It's-
here,
it's-
I've been here since, 1999, and I think it's always been white. So I've owned the bar and restaurant right next to it since 2005, and it's always been white, and that's what we
Yeah.
plan on keeping it, is white.
But it had asbestos siding on it until 8 years ago. Did you remove the
It
asbestos
was
siding?
removed right before we purchased it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, does anyone remember? I mean, it had asbestos siding and they removed it. I don't know whether, I think the clapboard is new, isn't it? I don't think that was under the siding. Anyway, it did not look like this
Never allow
10 years ago.
No, it did. You're right. It
Cutting edge.
got, we bought it
Way
in
back.
2017, so
No,
there was some
further than
work
that, 'cause they
on
weren't
the
doing
siding
anything.
done, but it's been white since I can remember. I mean,
oh yeah, they stopped it. I mean, I don't have a problem with the color.
So
It's-
he wants to wants to discuss the painting, and
Yeah.
we have no control over the color of paint, so.
And
Right,
the-
if it's the same color.
The white is a pleasing
then there's
color.
no.
I thought I read if
exempt
it's the
from
same
review.
color, you're all set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the style of the house, as I said, it was built this way as a duplex at some point, wasn't it? Because it looks like it has, or,
Yeah, there's
Well,
4 entry doors, 2 on
definitely.
each side.
Yeah, definitely
And those
on
are the
the,
original,
on
I would
the
imagine.
east side, those look like original doors. They're very Victorian in their style.
Just something about it
The ones on
is-
the other side are,
Yeah.
I suspect, are replacement doors.
No, I think
But-
the 2 closest to the street doors are the big old wooden doors, all right? That look historically time period.
Yeah,
The back 2 doors for each, 1 door for each side, they're wooden doors, but they're not the same style as the front 2 doors.
And you wouldn't see, that
Replaced.
wouldn't be as vital because they're further
Right, they're
back.
on the side.
Right.
And everything. So we'd just like to be able to
get the
get a
paint.
contract to paint the building, all right? And I'm doing work inside the house in a couple weeks. I'd like to be able to have the gentleman fix the doors while we're there, instead of coming back and forth, waiting.
Is the doors that are there, are they like old caked on paint, layers of paint? You want to, are you
The
going
front
to
2
get all
doors,
that off?
yes. You can see that in the front 2 doors?
Probably fur.
Are you going
Oh,
to
yeah,
take it?
yeah,
Is
yeah.
there any reason he can't?
No, that's, I mean, you can, if you paint the same color, you don't need
Yeah.
HGC approval.
Yeah, what color white though? There's like 200 colors of
Yeah.
white.
There's more than
Right,
that.
right.
Do I
Pick a
have
white.
permission to fix the railings and the spindles?
Yeah, that's
Before
maintenance,
we-
but the railings, some of the railings, those are 2x4s.
I-
So I would think if they match the other railings, that should be fine.
Yeah.
Or close,
here's a
match
picture that
similar?
shows the doors. You're going to pass that so people can see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
So
I-
if they, Charlotte, if they,
Yeah.
I think this is 2x4, if they replace the railing to match this,
Yeah.
that's just maintenance, right?
Well, could it be similar, that style?
Yeah.
Because if those are 100 years old, I'm not matching them. You
No,
can't,
no,
you know,
but
they-
I mean, similar to
Yeah.
what
but
the other.
similar,
Right.
close enough.
So, while I went and looked at the building over the weekend.
Yep.
And just so you know, the porch on the right-hand side, there was a leak in the porch. There's a leak on
In the
in
roof?
your porch.
looking at the building on the right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, all right, so we'll patch the roof, we'll go up there and,
I just thought I'd bring that up.
thank you, I appreciate it, and everything. Don't want to paint it and all of a sudden it bleeds through and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and so just protecting, maintaining the doors, that's exempt from review. That's maintenance, as long as you don't change anything.
No.
Are they gray? They're different, they're gray, right?
It's sort of a lavender color.
yeah, I'm going to say a light blue.
I mean, if you can change it, but the HCC would have to approve a color change for the.
I don't think we need to
I don't
change it. We
think-
just wanna-
I didn't think we had anything to do with colors.
Oh, you do, yeah. With a single-family house, you do not. But with other types of properties, you do have purview when the color changes. Now, how many units are in the building? Is it more than one?
4.
Okay, so it's not a single-family house.
it's a
So
multifamily.
you're exempt from review for any colors that stay the same. Any colors that change, the HDC does have purview.
Do you have are you thinking of changing them? Because if.
No.
Okay.
you're going to scrape the old paint off first?
Pardon?
Is it layers of paint, you're going to scrape the old paint off? Or-
You just can't, the house has to be power washed,
Yeah.
it's all grime on it and dust from the
Sometimes you
construction
just-
over the
yeah.
years and,
There's a lot of older houses where they just keep painting over it and it's.
no, it's just painting over dust and it comes
yeah,
off.
It's not good. It definitely could use need some paint.
And these, the vinyl windows, if, right now, the windows in the house, the majority of them are black, right? You really can't see that with the storm windows on, or you really can't even see the 2/1 with the storm windows. But the windows come, you can get colors on the outside. You either get black or white. All right, the inside would be white.
Should I'm assuming the color of the building, it's pretty much a bright white.
Yeah.
I mean, in the event vinyl were to be approved, I have no idea
Yeah, no
what
problem.
may happen, I'm just speculating. If it were to be, then you would want the color to match the windows, right? Which, if that's the windows,
it'll be what?
Is that pretty close to the paint color on the exterior?
It's
Yeah.
you're gonna get
Well,
it.
right now, it's dirty. You really can't,
It's dingy, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, would it make sense, a slight adjustment in the white, would it make sense for them to just try to match that if, in the event that were to be approved?
I mean,
I don't
So that
think,
it-
I think it's going to be close enough, whatever white it is.
yeah, white is gonna be white, and it
And
may
plus, you're
be,
gonna see the house, you're only gonna see
yeah.
an inch of the window.
And the lighting and then the shadowing, it's gonna be, yeah. I'm not gonna get into matching white to window frames. Just get her away.
Well, so it sounds like all the other work that you have is exempt from review, as you propose,
See the sign.
and I will send an email out either tomorrow or early next week, and we'll find a time good for Mr. Silva and the best time for the commission for a site walk, and I'll research the history of the windows.
Good.
Great. All right, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for hearing us.
Thank you.
You just get it at the truck. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
We could get a little history probably from Janet Mackey and maybe Andrea Bodo on some of the history of how the windows, what buildings are new and what are old. And
Yeah, but I have to say, Michael, that in the past, we've had this discussion about, vinyl windows, and, I've always kind of held out for, not vinyl. And the comment was, well, this isn't necessarily precedent setting, but clearly it is. So I think going forward on any of our decisions, we have to be really aware of that, because
Well, yeah.
it isn't fair.
Yeah, I mean, they're gone, and even if they were here, I'd say the same thing. We, as a group, cannot come out and say you can't have it when they've got it up the street. But
Well,
once Michael
but at the
finds the
same
information on,
time,
what's that?
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
At
I
the
don't know, because
Well,
our
no, we
job-
don't know because we don't know when these were done.
Right.
But here's
Also,
the
we
thing,
have-
excuse me for a minute, if a prior board, before any of us were sitting here, came out and said on July 1st, say 1997, we decided then no more are they going to allow vinyl, that's fine, but where is the date? Do we have the date?
Yeah, there hasn't been a proclamation of their official
Well, we don't know
resolution.
that.
Well, that's the thing, I mean, but if it is the case, I mean, I'm just going by what he's saying, now I gotta look myself, I'm gonna take a walk over there and see if these were vinyl. If they're vinyl and they're in a historic district, we got a problem.
But some of them, if they were new building, I believe that he's correct, that there were some new buildings in the infill there built. If those buildings were not held to the same standards,
Well, that's- why
then that
weren't they?
doesn't necessarily affect what we want to say about historic buildings that are being renovated.
So in other words, excuse me, so in other words, if you have, all right, I own a historic building down the
Yeah.
street here. God forbid, it burns to the ground tomorrow, I can build whatever I want over there, right?
Well, you would need
Have approval,
for
right?
a new
But I could put
structure.
vinyl windows or anything, or could I not?
Well, your new building would have to be approved by the HCC.
Yeah, but then
as being
again, it's not
compatible.
historic.
We haven't had that many new buildings,
But
so...
you see what I'm saying is there's a bit of a problem here, because you're saying if it's historic, but if the place were to be demolished,
It's not historic.
it's not
anymore.
historic anymore.
Well, it's a new potentially historic.
I think we need to really investigate this more, because I think it's
Yeah.
going to be an issue going forward. But I also have to say, I don't want to perpetuate mistakes that
No,
the board
no, I
has
agree.
made.
I agree.
Because then you end up having the whole historic district becomes
Well,
diluted in its
if you-
historicalness.
If indeed you find that nothing was stated and it really has established a precedence, I mean, I would think that you might not be able to get away with it here if it was not officially, and depending upon how
Yeah.
everybody voted, but you may want to then make some type of resolution so that you have a date saying, as of going forward, this is the choice, and then that puts everybody on alert that going
Yeah.
forward, you're going to need to do this.
Yeah, I can say, I mean, I've been here 13 years, and there has been a number of applications for windows. And I can say it's really been variable. And has not been any point at which the HTC has said, this is what we're doing going forward. It's been variable. The members have changed over the years. The types of buildings and situations have changed. So there's not something definitive.
No,
Well, let's get it straightened out and fixed.
because you know what? It's gonna happen again.
Oh,
Yeah,
you bet.
I mean,
It's
we
the
were-
most
again.
common
Yeah,
application.
Right.
Well, I
We
was
were
just gonna
lucky
say,
with the
I've been
last
on
one
this now
that she
for,
was
what,
actually
3
willing,
years?
she was
Yeah.
actually liked hers
Thanks, Mark.
with windows,
She was
yeah.
great, yeah.
And I hope that if we come up with, let's just say we end up saying from now on, no vinyl. I think it's really important to support that decision and not, though, go back and backtrack, saying, well, we can allow this, but it won't set a precedent. They
Doesn't
do.
do, yeah.
They do.
Well, right, and the same token is I really feel we need to get more history on what's gone on in the past over here. Because then if other individuals, residents, or people that own it from out of town come in here and say, well, what about these homes that are vinyl windows? We're gonna just sit there with a dumb look on our face like, gee, we don't know what's going on. We have to know, when did they put these on and why did they put them on? How were they allowed? Never mind the fact that it was a new building built. If it's an old building, how did they get them?
And any changes that
Well,
you
yeah.
make as a decision going forward, like, you may, like zoning. I mean, when all those apartment buildings in Churchill were first built, they were all allowed by right, and then there was a zoning change that said no longer allowed by right, so all those buildings that have students in them are not allowed by right. They're actually non-conforming. So you can make a legal change based on, a research into why you're doing it and justification for why you're doing it, and then go forward from there. But that would have to be forward from there.
There is
Good or bad.
actually,
Make it-
the state law provides that an HDC can adopt its own regulations. The ordinance that we have was adopted by the town council, but you can actually write your own regulations, which are like a supplement to this, that have specific rules. And that's something you could do.
I think we have to, because if you looked at any other HDC, especially Portsmouth, everything's really spelled out. We need to do a better job of that.
that
And
was how
Windows
the,
is
Yeah.
the toughest issue.
Yeah.
Windows and probably doors.
Yeah, but doors too, but Windows is the most, there are a lot of applications, and it's the most
Well,
vexing
yeah,
issue.
more so now than ever before because of the heating costs have
Yeah.
just gone astronomical. So, I mean, I don't blame anybody for coming in here and trying to push a window like that. A triple glaze is gonna be far better.
yeah, and even, with the,
But actually, the heat loss through the window is much less than the heat loss through the walls.
True.
So it would be, they would do more to improve the building by insulating it.
well, they'd have to completely gut the building and start all over again. And at this point, that's not their choice. Maybe at a future date, they might. I mean, he's the guy who owns Scorps, I believe, isn't he?
Yeah.
So can we
Move on.
Okay,
to
let's
next.
move along. All right, so now let's move to number 9. Okay, update on zoning amendments, is that,
Yeah, do you want me, Sally, or do you want the
You can
honors?
start.
So
I'll
the,
Chug in if I feel
there's there's actually a couple amendments.
There's only one up right
You,
now.
the HDC at the last meeting, you voted to recommend rejection of 2 of them. One is to allow multi-unit residential or multi-family apartments in Church Hill. And also,
meaning more than 4 units?
no, I mean, right now, there's no
Anything that's more-
multifamily allowed in Church Hill.
And
except
what's the definition of
senior.
multifamily?
More than one unit?
More than 1 unit.
Oh.
Yeah. So right now, it's very restrictive for residents. It's really senior housing for the most part in Church Hill. And the amendment was to allow multi-unit, which is any number of residential units. There's other constraints though, height limits and density.
Yeah.
in Churchill, and then also in the courthouse zone.
And PO.
Very small part of courthouse, I think, is in the HTC. And professional office, which is Madbury Road. That actually was adopted. You submitted a letter opposing that, but the town council actually adopted that on Monday. So that's now in place.
Well, maybe not for long.
Well, they adopted it, so, I mean, they can always be changed.
And I think
Can
the
always be
reason
changed.
why is that it is important to always remember what is in place already and the existing zoning. People do get upset about zoning without taking into, or a specific project or something, without taking into consideration what already exists. And in Church Hill, multi-unit was made not allowed a few years ago. I don't know when you did that, but it was probably around. But before that, it had been allowed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all those buildings filled with students. And primarily, that is, all the residents that live on Church Hill are primarily students for the most part. And they are all owned by various landlords. Some of them are local. The other possibility for a multi-unit was over 55. So with a multi-unit of a over 55, they could do that, they could have done that anyways. So when the council was looking at it and our suggestion for it, and these were just suggestions, and we brought them to the council and they decided what to move forward with. You already allow multi-unit by right in the form of over 55. Which, if you look at a multi-unit property, if you're concerned about mass, if you're concerned about somebody coming in and taking, and doing, they still have the same constraints as they have before. They still have the same height limitations as they had before. You still have all the oversight that you had before. It's just that the amendment says it doesn't have to be over 55. It can just be a regular one where 35-year-olds could live or 75-year-olds could live. It doesn't matter. It's more multi-generational. Over 55 is still allowed too. So it doesn't change, adding multifamily doesn't change the possibility of anything. It doesn't change your oversight, it doesn't change height, it doesn't change the types of units because those units already exist. That's all that's there. And they're full of students. And so the hope is that if there is with the move toward non-student residents, that it is going to be coming more so because of the students, the numbers declining, could prompt some property owners to say, let's redo some of these properties. Like, for instance, those guys. Let's redo these for nice. Why don't we take it back to the original duplex or take it into 4 and make it something that's a little bit upscale and nice. Or something that, is not students, because you know what? All of the student rentals are down with the exception of 911 Madbury Road. They seem to be up or whatever, but all of them are down. To the point where they are renting to, in various cases, they're open to renting to anybody.
So why don't you become proactive and see if you can get a core of landlords in the historic district to together make the switch? Because we know that adults living with students doesn't work.
Well, it's not, I think we have to kind of get out of that mind frame of adults living with students doesn't work and really start to think of what the properties would be and how their rental process would be. You certainly do have rental places where all kinds of people are in it.
Right, and that used to be...
And they're not, yeah, and that used to more so be, but it's starting to turn back in little by little. But the issue that we have with some of these, well, just about all of the student rentals, is the large number of bedrooms and their leasing program. The way they lease per the bed, and many of the units have 4 bedrooms, and they do that so they can pile in as many kids and get as many out of it. Whereas if you have to turn that back and limit them, and I think this is one thing we do need to do, is extend the 2-bedroom maximum into the Churchill PO and courthouse, which we have in CB downtown, we have a 2-bedroom limit. So
an apartment.
For per apartment, because that's a normal apartment. A 4-bedroom apartment is not a normal apartment.
Right.
And so if you start to get them in the realization that they're just going to be building these, and I did have a rather lengthy conversation with one of the property owners, and he's like, he was already discussing it, because he's saying, you know, we have this over 55, maybe we could do that. And he said, well, you know, I see this as multifamily. I could start to create some to purchase options. If you start to bring somebody in that starts to change completely, it can start to, you know, but it is having those conversations.
But
But you got to make it then, you've got to make it possible for them to do it.
But recognize that the Grange did have students with adults living there, and it did not work out. I wouldn't want to live downtown if there are so many students. They're not respectful.
Well, you know, and I know, but at some point you got to make the turnaround.
Well,
And so it's just like I hear people say, but at some point you got to make that change, and you got to somebody start doing it. And otherwise we shouldn't even be bothering or worrying about anything, because
Right.
only just a bunch of students are going to live here. There's going to be empty spaces. They have empty spaces. There are some apartments that are having a real hard time renting. And because even the students are looking for something different. But at some point, we have to make it possible for them to make the change. And in this particular instance, I know it's frightening, but the reality is no one is building student housing right now. And I spoke to, you know, another property owner that you all know who has built student housing. We talked to him, and he's like, we're not building student housing. I got student housing I can't fill. And so they've had to reduce some of their prices to try to get non-students in. And
So how do we get them to
You know.
realize that what they need to do is turn their buildings over into an
Turn it into a complete-
slightly
yeah.
upscale, which means
Well-
they want the historic look, and they want to keep
Right,
the historic
right.
features,
'Cause that's-
and make it then into a nice
think you have
apartment
one.
for-
Yeah, I think you have one in town now that is thinking on that, and it's about having, you know, like, hey, what if you try this? What do you do? But they have to be able to, first of all, they have to be able to legally do it. And until now, they have not been able to legally do it unless it's for over 55. And even there's the concern of like, sorry guys, we're all baby boomers in this room, even me. We're a finite number. You know what I mean? And there were less millennials, you know, or not millennials. Who's the next one? X-Geners? I don't know. My husband is just below me in age. So
After millennials is Gen Z.
Gen Z. You know, so they don't want those, and that is a building, you know, format that's losing its popularity too. That over 55, because people want to live in just regular apartments. So why not just make regular apartments that anybody can live in, multi-generational, and make, you know, studios 1s and 2s, and you have that building where you can attract that. But I think it is worth creating a group of, because this is one thing that I also suggested. I've suggested it at council meetings when I've sat there. I suggested it at planning board meetings, and people go like, oh, whatever, that's not zoning. You need a conservative effort in town to go out and search for what you want and attract it in. And you need a group of people to do that. And I think that there are other towns that have done that. They've gone out looking for the businesses they want in. And I think I think in that particular hill, you have that opportunity because you know a lot of the property owners. And I would love to do that. Get some council members on it.
So then again, you've got the 3-story, removing the proposal to eliminate the 3-story limit in the westerly portion of central business. There might only be the juicery property that's in the historic district. There might be something next to that, I don't know whether
I
that.
don't think that's,
maybe
that's
that
not in the
affects-
historic
Yeah.
district. Only
It's
that blue
campus-
house on the corner is the end of the historic
Oh,
district.
right, right.
Yeah,
the juicery.
and-
But across this, I don't know, I don't remember if there's one or two on the other side, on the southerly side
Corpse,
of
I
Main
think,
Street.
is,
Next to the
is in that
Grange
three.
or, but,
Well, this building that is the next one, is the last one in the historic district, I think.
they're
but that changes in central business, and that, right now, Madbury Road and most of Main Street is limited to 3 stories. The proposal would be to remove that limit
To
and
4
allow
stories.
all of that to be 4 stories by right, 5 stories by conditional use.
And the
if it's
5th
5
story-
stories, it has certain setbacks.
Yeah, the 5th story has to be set back, and that's by conditional use. And to be quite honest with you, it's highly unlikely anybody's going to bother with a conditional use if they did the 4 stories by right. But the reasons for that were the, to attract, well, there's a few things that we've already done downtown. But the reason to gain that extra is to gain, we have reduced the bedroom count. So we say you can only do 2 bedrooms in the downtown, where before you could do 6. And that's a dormitory. You know what I mean? But we did put that in back, before COVID, I think we put that in, when Al and I and Jim Lawson put that in on the council, to reduce it to 2. That creates less, you can maybe make smaller apartments. And we also got rid of this per square footage per person.
With a habitable
Yeah,
floor area,
yeah,
that was
habitable
removed
floor.
very recently.
There were some things that really put a stop on any development, and one of them was the 3-story and then the 300 square foot per half person. So that it was a requirement of 600 square feet per person to make it an apartment, which was unbuildable. And that's why all buildings stopped downtown. So we got rid of the habitable square feet, and we initiated the 2 bedrooms, right? But to create more bedrooms, and again, the Housing Task Force was asked to create housing opportunity. How do we get more housing downtown? We thought, okay, what if we just go up 1 floor, and we can get a whole other floor, and we can add more. We do have 4-story buildings in town. They're on the side. We do have them. We allow them in some places. Where we're looking at allowing them, for the most part, fronts nothing. I mean, if you look at that main strip of Roger Hayden's stuff to J. Michael, he doesn't own it anymore, but J. Michael stuff, which is where the gaming room is now. Used to be the mail place in the real estate agency. Those are all single story. And they're old, and they're not renting at best right now. They are all prime for it. But to go 4 stories, they're in front of nothing. They're in front of, the park and Mill Road. So it's not going to create a canyon effect because there's nothing in front of it. But, that's to be seen if how they respond to the 4th story. But the intent was that we're going down to 2-bedroom apartments. We could grab a whole nother row of apartments, and that would be about as high as we would probably go.
It would be best, though, if the residents of Durham, sort of were, why didn't we have a charrette? They need to be
Well-
a part of the process. No,
Yeah.
they need to buy in, and they have a right to express their views, and I don't think they're always being heard.
Well, I think there was no charrette done when you're limited to 3 stories.
That
There was a
doesn't-
petition, and there was no charrette done there.
That doesn't make it right.
Well,
I have attended charrettes here, actually.
Yeah, we have had, and we didn't have a charrette for housing. We did have public outreach and reaching everybody and talking to all the committees. And overwhelmingly, everybody said increased density in the downtown.
I'm hearing different things,
Well,
but let's look.
I know what I heard, but I think whenever you have something that comes along that's change, it does, it frightens people. And considering
But
that
that's-
change came from a petition, I understand. We're just saying this is the reasons why. And there is some definite, and I understand, there is some definite concern in the property owners downtown. There's two pieces of property, actually more than two pieces of property, there's two pieces of properties that I know of that are having a very difficult time to be sold. One of them said, I got it, I don't know, I don't care. This is what I'm selling it at. Somebody just gives me half of that. I don't care if they would just, I would take it today. Another one said, if I don't get my price, or I don't get a price and a buyer, I'm just gonna put it up for auction and take what it gets. And that means it will go below assessed value. And that means the assessed value will decrease. And that's the problem that they're having in the council, and that's why the council came to the Housing Task Force and said, please do something. Give us some ideas. And so we gave them our ideas. It's in their hand now. It's their public hearing. We had a public hearing at the planning board. No, we presented to the council. The council initiated it, went to the planning board. We had a public hearing at the planning board. We talked about it at the planning board, and now it's in the council's hand again.
Well, I think I don't think it's fair to just say that because it's change, people are against it. I think, from people who are in the audience, you had, actually, I think you had all the planners that live in Durham but don't work here come out, and you had the architects coming out. So all I'm saying is I hope people listen to what they have to say, because to me, it seemed as though they weren't listening. And they should have tried to bring the public into it better. And, this seems like they're trying to force a done deal. And, people in this community feel just as strong about things as you do. And
Well,
they're entitled to have their,
Can we,
Yes.
can we move
Yes.
on at this
Oh,
point? I
and
think
then
maybe-
just so the public hearing on the three-story item is continued to August 4th.
August 4th.
People can speak there. Council probably will make a decision one way or the other after that public hearing. There's another new public hearing on August 4th for lodging houses. And this is not what it sounds like. There's state legislation that made our three unrelated rule is going to go away, which frankly I think had been tremendously successful in Durham. Unfortunately, the state's probably taking that away. And we came up with another method to deal with that by coming up with a new term of student rentals we adopted. Now the state is also trying to remove that. So a committee that Todd pulled together, which included a number of people, and Al Howland, who's a very knowledgeable state rep, saw that it looked like we had one final tool to regulate the number of occupants in a dwelling. And that is, it's complicated, but it uses the state's definition of lodging house. So the proposal is to allow lodging houses in Churchill, professional office, and courthouse. But this is not about expanding housing. This is a creative approach that hopefully will be able to do it to manage the number of unrelated in a
So
unit.
can you give us a capsule idea of what the lodging house is?
Yeah, so a lodging house, it's all by the fire code. So the fire code defines a 1 and 2 family house or dwelling as one where there is a family plus 3 outsiders. Doesn't define family, doesn't define outsiders. But our fire marshal said that he interprets that as if 4 unrelated. 1 person's a family, 3 outsiders are unrelated.
Unrelated.
So you got 4 unrelated. We have to allow that as a dwelling anywhere. But then the fire code says
Anywhere.
a lodging house is not that, is more than that. So our fire marshal interprets that as 5 unrelated. So that's how we were able to regulate this
5
stuff.
up to 16, right?
Yeah, but it's 5 or more.
Yeah, 5 or more.
It happens to have the number 16,
Yeah,
which
right.
scares people, but it's
Yeah.
not relevant.
Yeah.
So the proposal is to allow lodging houses only in Churchill Courthouse and professional office, all that means is units with 5 or more unrelated.
So if
But it's a way really to protect the 4 residential zones.
So if 16 is
Well,
you.
that's the number.
So why,
Because that's what the state fire code.
the state fire code.
The state fire code is up to 16, and over 16 is a dormitory. But, you know, that's a way that if there's a single, and there's not any single-family houses in Churchill anyway. So
There's no lodging
if
house.
this passes legal muster, and I think it will, unless the state does something weird next year, it's a very good tool, allows us to still have some regulation to protect neighborhoods.
I don't.
So don't be
Okay.
thrown off by
I
the term
don't,
lodging.
yeah, I don't
house.
understand.
It's confusing.
Does this mean that an existing house that has student rentals will be called a lodging house?
If
and
there's an
will be-
existing house
depending on how many.
that it has 5 or more unrelated,
Yeah.
then we would call that, well, they're non-conforming anyway, because we have a limit of 3.
They have to be.
But that's gone away. So if there's 5 or more in a single-family house in RA, in 4 residential zones, we will now classify that as a lodging house, and it will be a non-conforming grandfather
And they would not be allowed in,
situation.
yeah.
But new ones,
Couldn't come in.
up to 4 is only allowed in residential zones.
And that's in one, it's not like these houses that are divided up into apartments. There's a lot of houses they've
Oh.
divided up into apartments. So that would be one kitchen and all these bedrooms versus the older house that has divided up into apartments. And then they could still have what they do now of 4 people in each apartment. And that would be fine because it's up to 4.
Right, so could somebody
And those are
start
apartments.
could somebody build in Churchill a new lodging house with, you know, a dozen rooms and a shared kitchen, you know, the old-fashioned rooming houses, boarding houses. Frankly, we need those in the country for housing. That's a shame that's gone away. Would someone build it? I wish they would.
They could take-
But I don't
They'd have
think
to-
we're gonna see that.
Yeah, they'd have to put money into taking out kitchens.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
yeah,
it's
it
a
would be
new
odd, it would be
structure.
odd. It
But
would
then
be-
Churchill's mostly built out anyway,
Yeah,
with except for a few lots, you know, behind the
Yeah.
Red Tower.
yeah.
Yeah,
The church owns some
the
land.
ones that aren't in this historic district.
The what?
The ones that aren't in the historic district.
Oh, well, yeah, that is right, that's outside the historic district, but, and then there's, you know, the parking lots behind. But within the historic district, I don't know that there's really any.
There's no
buildable-
land. It's all, it would all be up for redevelopment or reuse, adaptive reuse or something like that.
And then lastly, the historic, the Housing Task Force has put together a set of proposed changes that are broader in the zoning ordinance, that allows more density and more multifamily. That's going to be coming to the planning board
Yeah,
in
and
August, maybe September.
that multifamily is actually more associated as far as you look at like the building, like say if you take like an apartment building, that would be more in our other commercial zones, our out commercial zones, like Moodor and Orly and those kind of places, where we don't allow that now. It would be like where we allow businesses, we say, well, if you allow a business, put some apartments back there, too, you could do that. Or you could put, you know, something like that, 4plexes, duplexes, a building with 8 apartments further out. But that may be a moot point for us anyways, because the state looks like there's already a bill on the governor's desk saying that if you need to allow multifamily in your business districts, in those commercial districts. So
Yeah.
that may be out of
With
our,
this proposal from the Housing Task Force, it's significant, and we should just remember to talk about that at the HDC.
Yeah, yeah.
because you may have some interest in it.
we could
So we have to
give,
remember
yeah.
to do that.
And most of it is on, like, some things that we have but we could give them a copy
Yeah,
of
we
it.
have to remember to do that,
But
yeah.
on that, on the 3 heights downtown, if either of you have, or any of you have thoughts about what could be instead, how to maybe give a little bit more housing to those that are limited to 3, like a setback 4 or something like that, or ideas that you're thinking, anything, just write it
I
down, send it
personally
to
don't
me.
mind the idea of a little bit taller downtown. I mean, I go to Exeter and it's so charming because the buildings, they have, you know, the street front.
Yeah,
that
they got
creates
an
a
old,
feeling
they have
of
a
an
big,
urban,
old
a
town.
little small urban area. And whereas our main street is just one story sort of,
We need
you
to
know,
create a main
for
street, yeah.
tacky things. And so I think something could be done with good design.
Well, but I think somebody at the hearing made an excellent point and said that none of this housing really proves that it's going to do what you want it to do, which is increase tax revenue and/or revitalize the downtown.
Well,
So, what, I'm not done.
I'm sorry.
So and then I think we should move on. But I think they made an excellent point that maybe we should get, you know, somebody who is an expert in revitalizing downtowns to weigh in. I thought that was a good. So can we move on because?
That'd be nice.
All right, the Lafayette commemoration went off. It was successful.
It was
We had
great.
80 people, which was more than I
It's been
expected.
how many people?
80 people,
Wow.
yeah.
I was out of town. I wanted to go.
I was out of
So-
town, yeah. I was on a
We
cruise
had,
boat.
yeah, and well, I'd say about a third of them came from Riverwoods, so my giving my talk at the library and then at Riverwoods was very successful because about 40 people came at Riverwoods to hear my talk about Lafayette, and, you know, at least half of them walked on down to the event, so. And we have the Riverwoods food truck
Great. Oh.
dispensing.
And it was very well organized.
How's the
Yes.
Riverwoods food truck?
Well, it depends. It'll do different things depending what you want. In our case, we had, you know, we had coffee, lemonade, and scones, and muffins, because it was sort of a brunch.
Where does the truck go usually?
Oh, they send it around to different events at the different Riverwoods campuses.
To Riverwood
To
events.
Riverwoods?
Yeah, but they also use it as I think, as a publicity vehicle to go to maybe other events like this, you know.
Huh.
So good job.
Thank you.
So can we do the big free, can we?
Yes, tell us.
Just one thing, just so you'll know, there was a problem that day that you didn't even know about.
Oh, really?
The one about the route.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
I
down
didn't-
there for 9 o'clock, which is another thing. I'm not blaming anybody.
Yeah.
I was there and I'm like, plain English, what the hell is going on? There was no one there. No one. Do you know what time they came? 9:45. That's what time they were supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And when I told them where they were going, they looked at me. I didn't even, no one told me what type of horse. And I'm not a horse person, but I know one thing. You can't get a quarter horse to go up that road.
Well,
There's
I
no
asked
way.
that when
There's
the
no
police
way.
officer
If I
said.
thought, that- you
yeah,
know what,
the
I thought we were
police
having a
officer
big
said-
draft horse. That's what I was in my mind thinking, what
Yeah.
else could it be, a big draft horse? Yeah, even that would be a push. The woman that had it, she looked at me and she said, are you kidding? She says,
Well-
no way. She said, I can't go up there. She said,
I
it'll kill a
warned her, I
horse.
said, you know, the police officer says we can have only one police instead of two.
So
if
that's
we
why
go
they
on that
came over
road.
here. I
Yeah.
told them, I said, I
Yeah.
think the best way to go, just let's take a walk. And when they walked it with me, and that's when they realized they
And
had
that's
to
what
go
they
there.
had, that's
Yeah.
what they had wanted to do originally. And because the police officer suggested that alternate route of the road, I said to the Carol.
That's about a
Kimber
30
Kim,
degree
I said,
tilt.
can
There's
your
no way a
horse
horse
go
can
up
do
that
that."
steep hill? And she said, not a problem. But then when she looked at it in real life, it was a problem. So that was a quick, that was a quick emergency.
Anyway, I just wanted to let you know, that was the change.
Yeah, right, that was
that was
thank
done
you very
early.
much for being on site for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a last minute workaround. So, anyway, but other than that, everything went well, and the Lafayette guy was wonderful, and our John Herman as Stephen Mitchell was wonderful. So, it was good. All right, Bickford House.
So it's going along well, it looks great. I don't know if there's
Well,
anything else to say.
they're closing in the walls, they're plastering now.
Can we get a
Rocking
tour?
I think we had scheduled one
Yeah.
about a week ago, and then Rich said no.
Because it's a construction site.
Yeah.
Well, it's a combination. I
I
mean,
have a
we've
hard
taken
hat.
individuals. If you want to come as an individual, talk to one of us and we'll
Oh,
bring you
okay.
over. But because of the problem that if we have
it's
a
a
whole
public
group, then it
meeting.
becomes a meeting and then the public has to know about it.
They're all gonna wanna
And
know,
then-
yeah.
So, but we can certainly take individual, just,
I can wait till it's
but it is pretty amazing. It's quite transformed,
Wow.
and yet still totally historic. So, okay, plaque for the Old Brick Town Hall.
So we have this beautiful plaque upstairs, really well made,
Good
very
place for it.
heavy,
Gotta
very
get it.
heavy. And I've been going around with Charlotte and Audrey and Rich Rain and Aaron, who's a structural engineer, and Mike Hoffman. The one thing, just last thing we need to figure out is, do we need to have fashioned a special metal bracket to provide extra support?
Like a little shelf under it is kind
Yeah,
of what it is.
and we'll figure that out.
Because that would allow extra attachment.
I'd rather see it, but it probably would be fine without it, so we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll get it done.
You don't want it falling off.
No, we don't want to fall. Well, if it fell off, it would fall off in 50 years. And so no
Yeah,
one's
but it
going to
could
blame
damage the
me.
brick. No
They
one's
won't
gonna-
blame me, but I still will feel guilty. I mean, even if I'm dead, I'll feel guilty.
You'll roll over on that one.
Yeah, I don't want it to
Yeah,
fall down
yeah.
in 50 years.
Yeah, right.
But it could, yeah, it could take some of
But
the
we did
brick.
learn in the process that Janet Mackey did the investigation of the history. The reason that that window is filled in where we want to put the plaque is there was originally a window there, but they wanted, when they made it town hall, they wanted to put a vault in. So they built a vault behind, in that area, behind that, and
Oh.
bricked up the window.
They didn't want a window in a vault.
So,
Why do they have a vault?
well, it was for town
For
offices.
the
It
town,
was
for the-
town-
we have a
town
vault
records.
downstairs. We have a vault downstairs.
But
So when
Isn't that
they,
the original
you know,
one that
so
was
when
here
they
from
made
the
the,
bank?
you know, they made the upstairs into the meeting room, and then the downstairs
put
was
your
offices
ballots
for the
and
selectmen.
That's
and they
nice.
had
But then they
that.
took the vault out later, obviously.
I don't know, it may still be there, I'm
It's
not
not a
sure.
timed one, is it?
It's in the, you know, it's in the
Usually
back of
banks
the
are
rec
timed, but
offices.
Oh,
But, so, I haven't been inside to look to see if there's still a vault there, but anyway, that's why they filled in the window.
So we'll get that done. It's just, everything's more
taking a little
complicated
time.
than you think.
Yep, that's for sure.
All right. Any progress on Schoolhouse Lane, the group, you're working on
Well,
that
here's the
group?
thing. It's a nice thing to have on there about the plaque, and I'll be honest with you, the plaque is important, but let's not even talk about the plaque. We've got more problems over there than necessary to be. Number one, we've got trees that have to come down. Multiple trees. I counted at least 14 trees that need to come down.
kidding.
Yeah. These are Norwegian spruce.
Oh,
And what they're doing is just destroying everything in there. And as Janet was pointing out to me, there's a number of them that have lost limbs, and you know, they're not deciduous trees, number one. So if we get snow in the wintertime, they're gonna get laden with snow, they break, they fall, and where do they land but on the graves?
They break
And-
a lot, yeah.
And they bust the
Termites
monuments,
get
right?
them. It's bad.
Yeah. So that's another issue. We discussed when we were over there about putting a fence in the front. Not an expensive situation with split, you could put a split log fence that, you know, cedar or whatever they're gonna use, something that would be characteristic of that time, look very nice in the front, because most cemeteries have some kind of a fencing.
They have
Ideally, they
fencings.
have iron.
I mean, we could
Yeah.
have, the ideal thing would be like a granite type thing, but that's cost prohibitive. You're not gonna do something like that. I mean, it's just impossible.
Yes.
But a split
Rail.
split rail type fence would be perfect for something like that.
Historic cemetery.
Yeah, a lot of them have granite
You
posts
gotta
and
have a
then.
in most
and then iron
cemeteries,
on the iron bars,
this is even
like the,
bars.
Well, if you
They-
look at any cemetery, they
they
always
have
have
to there
cemeteries are
keep
notorious for
spirits
always
in.
having a fence.
yeah.
they
Well,
have.
You know what it's
to
for?
keep
It's to keep the
spirits
people
in.
from going out, not in.
if we had,
It's to keep the spirits
historic
in.
photos somewhere. So,
All right, so
And the
there's,
other thing that we've noticed, so Janet brought it up to me, there are monuments or markers, I should say, not really monuments, they're markers that are there, but there's no one buried there. Are you, I don't know if anyone's
yeah,
aware.
yeah.
Yeah.
Would the bodies
They
were
get-
removed? The bodies were removed?
No.
They just
These
weren't
were
put there.
markers that were found, I guess, Janet knows more than I do on this. They were found elsewhere in the town, and
They just put them there?
the DPW over the years
Is that
just
right?
stuck them in there. Yeah, there's a whole bunch right
No
there.
kidding.
Yeah, I said, gee, they're all like, I know I'm a funeral director, so I should know. I said, why are they buried so close? I've never seen anything like this. She said, oh, they're not buried there. Where are they? Who knows?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
They're out there somewhere.
But they're cemented in, and that's
so in
it.
other words, there needs to be long-range planning for
So
the
like I
whole
was saying to
cemetery.
Janet about
which-
cleaning the stones, I mean, we know how we could do that, you know, very inexpensive way to do it. And she said, let's not even consider that right now. I think what should be done is the trees are gonna have to come down first. And that's when she said she was gonna be speaking with Rich to find out what would be involved with taking some of the trees down. Some first and then more later. But of course, the big problem is with the folks over there at Three Chimneys.
So even if all those trees are taken down, is there still a nice tree cover of
There will
healthy?
be. Yeah, the
trees
deciduous
in the
trees are in there, they're fine. But
down the
it's,
pine.
it's the others. Who planted these? God only knows. I mean,
They
it's,
just grow.
they've lifted everything up. They're brutal, I mean, what they've done.
Yeah, they're not meant
And
to
the
be.
tomb has
Norway
got,
spruce may be invasive.
the tomb that's in there right now has also some structural defects as well.
The what?
The tomb that's in there, that's, right, it's on the wall, near the wall side. You probably heard about the one where somebody actually went into a tomb.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Well, this one is not to that point, but you almost could. If somebody worked a little, they could get in there. There's a whole.
Oh, is
like
that the
big-
one where some kid went in there
Yeah,
and
they
got
could,
stuck?
got stuck, and then he had to use the cell phone to call somebody to get him out, and the guy got scared, he called the fire department, and they got him out.
My God.
All right, so there's a lot more going on with the cemetery.
Yeah, like Janet said to me, the plaque is important, but she said, let's not hit that first. She said, we got other
Get it cleaned
bigger
up.
things to do over there. And, but whatever we need, we can get started with. I mean, we probably won't do much with it this year. It's going to be ongoing. Like we were discussing it, it's going to probably be 3 to 5 years before this thing is ever finally completed.
Well, yeah, actually, Public Works may want to, I don't know what the cost to hire a tree service for.
Well, it's going to be a crane job because
dozen.
there's no way you're going to
They
get those
can't
out.
drop them.
They can't drop those things.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the town is willing to extend itself. You know, we just hired a crane to remove some old docks at Cedar Point.
Right,
That some
right.
irresponsible property owner, and we couldn't pin it down, just left these rotting, destroying the shore. We didn't have to do something, but we chose to do it. We hired a crane, we removed them, and it's, so I'm sure the town will take care of this. We may need to budget for it.
Yeah.
So can we move on?
Okay, and now, signs for entering the historic district, nothing has been done on that. But I did have an idea as I was looking during the Lafayette thing, I was looking at the little sign that's there, that maybe the signs we have that are small could be relocated to places where they can be down at eye level. For instance, there's no entrance near the old Bricktown Hall and the Holiday Inn. There's no sign there that says entering the historic district. So maybe a small sign could be put down on one of the light posts, down low where you could, and kind of at eye level. And then we could make some bigger signs for the major road
Like the one
entries.
when you're coming in on
Yeah,
108.
ones where you're driving
Yeah.
at 30 miles an hour and you'd want to see a bigger sign. So anyway, that's the only.
The 108
brainstorming.
one, right now is, I look at it, it's strange because.
You don't like it?
Well, I never liked it from the get-go, but now it's even worse. If you've noticed it, the post is here, the sign is there, and somebody put a driveway right there. So it almost looks like it's for the person's driveway. Yeah, so if that's where the historic district starts, great. But, have you seen it, Carolyn?
I have.
Up here,
I know
don't you
what-
get
I know
that
what-
impression?
I
mean,
know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
when you're looking at it, I mean, I know what the deal is on it, but it almost looks like, hey, let's go up there. There's a historic district up there.
Yeah, so anyway, we can try to in the
And
fall.
it's
we can
somebody's
try to
driveway.
Get to work on that one too.
I'm not pulling that one out. That's granite. I can tell you right now, that's going to be over 500 pounds. Forget it.
All right, so any other
Yes.
business?
I-
Yes.
Go ahead.
I wanted to add a plaque for Red Tower relative to Margaret Blydenberg being an abolitionist who lived there.
Margaret?
Her father actually built the building.
What's her name?
Margaret Blydenberg, Blydenburgh.
Carolyn, are you thinking of freestanding or something on the building?
I was thinking freestanding, but
So that would be a proposal for like the next year's plaque equivalent of this one at
Maybe,
Smith Chapel.
yeah.
Would it cover more about Red Tower as well, or would it only talk about the abolitionists?
I would think it would have to include the guy who lived there. I'm drawing
Yeah.
a blank.
The,
But that the fact that she
The
was an
Smith, the
abolitionist.
Yeah.
And
All right,
she-
well, when you have spare time, you write up the text
Oh.
and make a proposal.
All right.
And then
I
we
will.
can work with
I
that.
will.
Because,
well, I think that it would be an interesting project because so far the plaques we talked about are on town property, and we want to have them on a program for private property too, because Tom, we won't hear the end of it from Tom if we don't.
What's
But the Red Tower is a good one to start because it's one of the most illustrious private buildings in the, so it's privately owned, and Pete Murphy's the owner, and Pete's a good guy. Maybe we could work something out with him.
Yeah, but I think it's a property worth recognizing.
interesting.
A single woman of Durham. She's in the
Well, her father was a
Frederick
reverend,
Douglass, yeah.
and he built the house. I don't think she ever married, and
Yeah.
when she died, she left money to William Lloyd Garrison, Frederick Douglass, and a few other abolitionists.
Yeah, she's in the Frederick Douglass thing, yeah.
I will not be moved and I will be heard. I will not budge a single inch and I will be heard.
That's what I always say.
All right, well, but then on that line, we need to have a more
I'll make a motion.
comprehensive.
Is that what you were saying?
No, I was just saying we need to have a more comprehensive
Oh.
list of things that we could do plaques on, so as
Yeah.
to have a plan, not just do them completely piecemeal.
Yep.
But all right, you want to
I'm
make
going to
a-
make a motion, we adjourn.
No, one more thing, and this is a quickie. Having gone and been participant with this Lafayette commencement on the 22nd, I'll tell you what I was disappointed in. I don't know about you, Charlotte, you were there. I was disappointed. I did it on my place. I put buntings on. Now, I know we can't enforce people to do it, but why in the world can't we as a board go out there and try to either send emails out? We have all the names of all these people. It's not like we're in a city or a town. I mean, a city that's so large, it's small. We know who's in all these historic homes. Not telling them they have to do something, but once one person does something, the other will follow through and another one will follow through. I put them up because I figured, hey, this is going to be a great time, and nobody else followed through. You know,
So is this something?
it's
this-
something that it bothered me
done
when I saw
seasonally.
this, and even the woman that had the horse commented on
Yeah.
it when she came back. She said to me, gee, I guess this wasn't really well publicized in the town. I said, well, it was, you know, through our group and also with the town weekly newsletter. Well, yeah, but there was no buntings and blah, blah, blah. She said, there was only this one house here and one house over there, and that was it. I said, well, you can't enforce it. She said, yeah, well, you think people that have pride enough to want to do something. And that's when it hurt me when she
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
that. Because if we're living in, or having property in historic district, why don't we have the pride to show it?
So
Period.
Yeah, they probably
this
need
would
to
be,
give
I
it
mean,
an
we
idea.
can sit here all night long and talk about all these other things which are great, but it's a small thing, but it makes
so
an
do you
impression.
think this should happen every
Yeah, I mean,
year for 4th of July?
You know, 4th
or-
of July. Here's something that was
4th of
250 years. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, duh. I mean, what's wrong?
Well, maybe you're bringing up a point that a couple of years ago at this point, we did an event at Three Chimneys where we had maybe we should plan on doing an outreach event every year that brings everybody
I would
together.
Thoroughly agree with that. I mean, that's what you need
And
because
maybe we can have it at a historic house in the district during the summer and
Yeah.
have, you know, an evening, because it was rather expensive to have it at Three Chimneys, quite frankly. And it would be kind of neat if,
you know, I'll tell you right now, bunting is cheap. It only cost me $25, and I didn't steal it either.
per bunting.
No, for the whole thing. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows. I went online.
Were they cloth?
Well, it's I don't know, probably made in China naturally.
Clothette,
Yeah,
paper
clothette, but it's
yeah.
like a vinylette or something like that. So from the road, it looks like the real McCoy.
Okay.
I went online and
Vinyl.
oh, I'm
You get
sorry, I
approval
shouldn't
for
say
that?
that. Yeah, well, It's vinylette,
It's clothette.
clothette or something, but rain went on it, didn't hurt it. But the idea is, it's not the expense like that, it dresses a building up, it shows that it's a historic district. I mean,
Yeah.
I did it early enough thinking that somebody would get the incentive. There was only one other house, that's it. Even the general's house didn't have anything this year.
People are maybe feeling.
So
I mean,
we need a.
I know
we
we're all,
need
let me put it
residents
this way.
committee,
I
a
know there's
residents
another thing
booster
going on with a
association.
lot of us.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
people right now are feeling like this about this country, which
Yeah.
is understandable.
Yeah.
But
Maybe it's
we
time to
gotta,
bring it up.
we gotta live and we gotta think about ourselves and everything else. I mean,
Support the values.
that's right. Because
All right.
long after 4 years from now, we'll still be here, hopefully,
Yes,
God willing.
hopefully.
Yep.
So
Okay.
can I make a motion to?
Yes, please.
Adjourn.
So, yep, and you're seconding it? Okay.
I will.
All right, well, since Eric didn't show up, we could probably just vote
Yeah,
all in
we can just
favor.
vote.
Yes.
Aye.
Nobody's
Anyone
here.
opposed? Meeting dismissed, adjourned.